This is Anote. Anote lives in Kiribati, a small island nation in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. He lives in a vibrant neighborhood where he knows everyone, but he's worried because soon his home could be completely underwater. All the culture and the history of the island may literally be swept away by the ocean if action isn't taken soon. The problem that affects Anote and other small island nations are rising sea levels. Rising sea levels are caused by ice melt, specifically land ice melt, which occurs as a byproduct of global warming. As the temperature increases, more and more of ice sheet melts. One of the largest contributors to the rising seas is the continued melting of the Greenland ice sheet. Unlike ice in the sea, which melts and has a less severe effect on the sea levels since the ice was already in the ocean to begin with, land ice melt goes into the seas from the land, which will have a direct effect on the rising of the sea levels. Since the 1880s, sea levels have risen by approximately 21 to 24 centimeters due to the melt of glaciers and ice sheets, and it's only getting faster as time passes. Research shows that the continued melting of the Greenland ice sheet will raise sea levels by about 1 millimeter per year, and by the end of the 21st century, sea level is projected to rise by approximately 3 feet, which will have devastating effects on coastlines. Take the simulation, for example. Here are 2 cups of water. In one, ice melts in the cup, but the level of water doesn't rise much. However, when you pour the ice into the cup and then let it melt, the water overflows the cup. This is similar to what is happening in Greenland right now. 3 feet may not seem like much, but to coastal, low-lying regions such as Florida, it may jeopardize the lives of millions of people. Approximately 40% of the US population and 50% of the Canadian population live in coastal regions. Combine that with frequent hurricanes and storms, and the problem becomes even more exacerbated. These areas will literally drown and become like Atlantis, lost cities under the sea. Humans aren't the only organisms being affected by sea level. Ecosystems living in coastal regions may also suffer massive biodiversity loss as a result of the rising levels. In particular, widespread flooding and increased erosion threaten to irreversibly damage coastal ecosystems like marshlands or low-lying flats. Rising sea levels affect 233 endangered species around the world, like endemic species such as the key deer, a small species of about 800 deer living in the Florida Keys. Here in Metro Vancouver, we're lucky enough to not be at risk of our homes being flooded as a result of rising sea levels. However, we still do suffer some consequences, such as increased humidity, flooding in coastal and low-lying areas, additional stress on sewer systems, and potential compromisation of irrigation water to farming areas. Suddenly, the rise in water levels is affecting us. However, it's not only the oceans that are rising. As a result of increased glacier melt, the Fraser River has been steadily rising for a longer period of time in the spring and summer, which also increased the risk of flooding. As mentioned prior, one more risk to the rise of sea levels are melting glaciers, which have been receding at an alarming rate in the last century as a result of global warming. Take the famous Mendenhall Glacier in Alaska, for example. Since 1910, it receded by nearly 3 kilometers, putting hundreds of millions of liters of water into the ocean. And that's just the most well-known example, as worldwide, many major glacier systems are retreating further and further back. Although mountain glaciers in the Himalayas, for example, may not have a massive impact, coastal glaciers certainly have made their mark on the oceans. It is essential that we solve the problem of rising sea levels now. For now, the effects of climate change are reversible if we take action, but studies show that we may hit a point of no return within the next 10 to 20 years, which means that no matter what happens, we will never be able to fix the Earth again after that point. Oftentimes, it is the countries that have the least contribution on climate change that suffer the most consequences. Kiribati, for example, has almost zero effect on the climate, yet, due to their location, the entire country will certainly be underwater if things continue as they are now. It's up to large first world countries such as the USA or Canada that produce most of the greenhouse gases to take action and advocate for climate change awareness. Sea level rising is unique in that we cannot directly combat it. However, many of the strategies mentioned in previous presentations by the Green Team can play a role in lowering or maintaining sea levels, so check out our videos on veganism or transportation. Mitigating greenhouse gas consumptions, such as choosing alternate methods of transportation or cutting down on meat consumption, also indirectly helps in preventing sea levels from rising further. Now, let's go back to Anote and Kiribati. He now feels safe and knows he can live out his life to the fullest without having to worry about the entire country being underwater. By taking action and advocating for the reduction of greenhouse gas consumption, sea levels have not risen to a critical point, and we have helped save hundreds of thousands of people in Kiribati and other small Pacific islands from having their lives permanently changed.